everyone, welcome back to My Life, My Story Part 2. I'm going to pick up where I left off last time, which was Alaska. I'm not going to leave there yet for North Carolina, which was the next place I moved. Let's see. My note. Oh yeah, that's what I forgot to say, is that I had a bad habit of lying. I was a liar. Okay, I guess I'm gonna say that I didn't lie for like bad reasons. I didn't do bad things and lie about it to get away with it. I lied because I was good at it and it was like a game. It was just a fun game for me. Like a way of quickly making up stories that people would believe. I lied about everything. That's one of the things my mom and my dad were so mad about, is that I would lie about like the stupidest things that didn't even have a reason to lie about. And maybe I guess I just didn't realize and never told them that it was just for fun. But my sister, she took advantage of that, and I remember as a child that really upset me all the time, is that when she would do something, you know, and we'd get in trouble, she would say, "Oh, Elizabeth did it," and I would of course be like, "No, I didn't do it, you know, Amy did it." And she would lie to them. She would say, "No, you know, Elizabeth did it. She's a liar," you know, and they would believe her because I was the liar, and I knew they wouldn't believe me. But it really always hurt me that she would blame me for things that she did. I never would do that. I didn't do that, even though I probably could have because I was a liar. But so she started denying things that she did and blaming me from an early age. And I wonder often if maybe if I hadn't been a liar and my parents could catch her in these lies and get after her for her own things, and she didn't get away with blaming like me, then maybe that would have stopped this, I don't know what it is, you know, that continued on into her adulthood, you know. So that was me being a liar. And I also want to talk about emotions. Last thing I want to ever say is I'm an emotional woman, because when I say that, you would think about your ex-girlfriend, your ex-wife, your ex-husband, right? Oh, she's so emotional and crazy. I mean emotions like, as in like empathetic. Like I can feel other people's emotions. It like hits me in waves. And the reason I'm mentioning this now is because I never even like put it together or thought about it until the last few years as an adult. But I remember, you know, it all started way, way back when I was a child, how that, like I said, when I felt other people's emotions, I always thought that they could do the same. So like when my mom was mad and she'd be trying to talk to me, I would always be quiet, and inside my head, I'd be letting out all these things I was telling her, like through, you know, emotions or silent thinking or whatever. And I always thought that she was just ignoring me and wasn't like, you know, picking up on him, because she kept saying, "Why are you not talking to me? Why not talking to me?" But in my own weird way, I really was talking with her. I know it sounds totally crazy. I'm not crazy. But all these times, all these years, I always thought that other people could feel what I was projecting too, like I could them. So that was a weird thing that kind of started in Alaska that I was conscious of. I was being silent. Like if I got upset, and I'm sure this is one of the things like people who knew me, like my sister, would say they hated about me, especially as we got older, you know, as adults and we lived together. Because when I get upset or someone's like, you know, mad at me, a lot of times I would retreat into myself and get silent, because I always felt like people could still feel all my emotions, regardless if I was speaking with my mouth. That probably sounds so stupid, oh well. Even though I had a happy childhood, I'm sure most everyone has problems in their lives with their parents or their siblings or, you know, whatever. I mean, life is problems and things, right? Everything's not perfect. So my mom and dad, they bitched a lot. That was like my main thing I would ever complain about as a child. It was horrible, really. My mom, turns out, or I guess opposite. My sister, turns out, is a lot like my mom. As a child, I didn't really realize like the things that she did, you know, because when you're just a kid, it's kind of all beyond you. But now when I look back, I can see all the patterns, you know, are the same as like what my sister ended up doing, like in our relationship. And this is one of the reasons why I've always been depressed and had a real problem with depression is because of my mom and dad bitching when I was younger and having like arguments all the time. My mom would always complain about my dad, how mean he was, and he did this and he did that, and he didn't care or whatever. And as a child, I always thought that that was true. She was my mom, I loved her, and when I hear like these things about my dad, I'm like, oh, it made me like just think it and believe it and think less of him. And then she would all the time they'd bitch, like she'd and he'd be like, and then all the time you'd hear it and hear it and hear it. And even like in my room or with my music on, it was like it really just got to me because I kind of felt like, how come they don't love me enough to not bitch all the time? How could they not like love the family and love us? How can they bitch all the time? So that was something that happened in Alaska. They kind of started, fighting. So towards the end of our time in Alaska, they were kind of on more rocky terms. And one thing that really, really hurt my dad, like he still mentioned up until, the year that he died, was that my mom decided, because see, my dad was in the Air Force, I know I mentioned that, he was in the military, and I believe it was at his 20 years, just right about at his 20 years, and they were going to give him an awesome assignment, maybe like to Germany or somewhere. He always wanted to go overseas. And my mom said no. She said that she wanted to go back to North Carolina and be with her family. Well, my dad had lived in North Carolina. That's where they met, him and my mom. And he did not like North Carolina. He didn't necessarily like care for her family that much, and he didn't want to just stop and go to North Carolina and live there. But instead of discussing it, and coming to like an agreement, she basically, this is the part that I guess he never forgave because he talked about, she basically told him that she was going to North Carolina with me and my sister, and that he could stay and do whatever he wanted, or he can come if he wanted to. Which I guess that exactly what it sounds like is kind of like, I don't care about you or what you do, you can come if you want to come, So that was when we moved to North Carolina. And my dad quit the Air Force, or he retired after 20 years of the Air Force, and came with us because he loved us. And he loved my mom more than anything. The move to North Carolina, it was a pretty sad thing, honestly, because at first my mom made it sound all exciting. She'd talk about like the buffets they had there, because they didn't have the same kind of, things in Alaska. They just had like a fancy one on Sundays or something. But she said in North Carolina they had like Ryan's Steakhouse, had like all kinds of food and everything. And she's talking about all the fun things to do there and how different it would be, and it was so exciting. But when it was time to move, I guess because of the Air Force only allows families maybe like a certain amount of like weight or whatever to move their house stuff. But she got rid of all of our toys. I always, like me and my sister were always so upset about that. Like we loved our Hot Wheels. We played and collected like every Hot Wheels car. That was like our thing. And she got rid of like all of them, like all our cool toys. She didn't let us go through any of our stuff. I don't know why. Her and my dad just went through it and packed it up and, kind of got rid of our stuff. But that was a sad part. Sorry if I went on about it, but North Carolina was a shock. It was a completely different, oh my gosh, where do I start even? Okay, so my mom and dad, like I don't remember what they were doing. I guess they, for their jobs or whatever, they couldn't come right away. So they sent me and my sister to their parents, to my mom's parents' house, to our grandparents' house, which was in Barnardsville, North Carolina, which is like the country of North Carolina. So here we are, two wild and free girls with very country, reserved, religious grandparents, and it was so weird. I guess it was summer when we first got there, and we were off for like months playing around their yard and having fun. And me and my sister and my grandma and my granddaddy. It was just like, it was awesome. They were so different, and it was great to get to know them. It really was. So when it was time to start school, that was the bad part. See, in Alaska, it was all kinds of races in school. I mean, I think white people were probably like not even the majority. I don't remember, but there was definitely all kinds of kids there, and I never ever even heard of anything. I didn't even know what racist was until I moved to North Carolina, and I heard people saying the most horrible things. You know what all kinds. I'm sure you can imagine about, especially about black people and the black kids there, and it was awful. It was so depressing. I was so different. All the kids would do was make fun of me because, you know, from the north, and I had big lips, and they'd call me names and make fun of my lips all the time. And my mom would be like, don't worry, you know, when you're older, you'll be happy for your lips. But it was hard. So that was our first year or so in North Carolina, was like way out in the country with the grandparents. Then when my mom moved and dad came to Asheville, we got a house in the city. And school wasn't any better. I really hated high school. I was depressed the whole time. I'm gonna go into why real quick. I don't know why. I don't know why, actually. And I don't know why my parents, or especially my mom, because my dad was always working, you know, he didn't really have as much to do with us as my mom did, right? We're her girls, right? I don't know why she let me be like that. And when I think back, I'm like, ew, I would make my kid, like, be different. I'll tell you. You're like, what's she talking about? Okay, so I didn't shower that much. I mean, like once a week, if that. And I stunk, okay? I remember specifically always having like an odor. And like I said, now I think back, like, why didn't I shower? I don't know. I guess I was just lazy and didn't care. And why would they let me go to school like stinking and embarrassing myself, right? I had like dandruff in my hair and dandruff on my shirt and everything. You know, I was gross. I was just gross. I was overweight. I was unhealthy. I didn't care about myself. I was super depressed. It was just, I was miserable. And I wore ookie clothes. I didn't go shopping for clothes. If my mom ever took me shopping, it was to like Catherine's. I don't know if you guys know what Catherine's is, but it's, I guess maybe there weren't a lot of plus size clothes back then. Maybe they're more expensive to go get, you know, them or something. But she'd take me to sale times at Catherine, which is like where the old people shopped. I mean, like the women in there had like blue and white hair, and they were like 60 to 80, you know. And I didn't want any. I don't really like clothes necessarily, and I didn't want those clothes. So I basically wore the few things I had like over and over again until they smelled. I know that sounds horrible, and I'm not like that now. But this was me as a teenager. I'm not gonna lie, okay? Also, my shoes. I am a sweaty person, and I have sweaty feet. And if you know that if you wear the shoes over and over again and you sweat them over and over again, after a time they're going to get stinky, right? Well, I must have had these shoes for like a year or two. They were like falling apart, they were horribly uncomfortable, and they were stinky. And again, I don't know how my parents would let me go with these old ass stinky shoes. I swear the odor of the shoes filled the whole classroom. I sat there every day totally embarrassed about my own odor, yet I didn't do anything to change it. It was so weird and horrible. I don't understand. I look back and I'm like, what the, you know? So anyways, I was not popular, to say the least. And on top of, like I said, being overweight and stinky and dirty, I was very unusual, and I was proud to be unusual and different. I didn't want to fit in with any of those kind of people. Well, I did some of them I liked and wanted to be friends with them, but I didn't know how to make friends, so I didn't have any friends. Amy, you know, I mean, we weren't that good of friends once we got, and you know, teenagers, like in high school, because she was 2 years older. So in high school, that's a big difference now. It's not like when you're kids, you know, when you're older, that's a big difference. She had her own friends, and they didn't really want to hang out with me, especially, you know, since the way I described myself. So I was pretty much a loner. Pretty much depressed the whole time too, which is why I think I mentioned that my mom let me drop out of high school at the end of 10th grade, right before I graduated. I was so depressed. She knew it, that I was probably like on the verge of like suicidal thoughts, and that she let me drop out of high school as long as I promised to get my GED right away. And I did, like within a week or something. I passed it right away. And then I didn't have to go to high school anymore. Oh my gosh, that was like, ah, my life changed after that. Did you find any of this interesting? I hope so. I know for a lot of you this is not what you wanted to hear. I know that you're waiting to hear the juicy story of Amy and what happened between us. But I just wanted to tell you guys, since I have a lot of patience, I know a lot of people don't have a lot of patience. Like I said, this is a story of my life. It's my life from the beginning to the end, and all the crap I want to talk about in between. At the end of it, well, even though I'm not dead, it's not over, hopefully, but when I catch up to this recent parts here, I'm going to, of course, be talking about what happened with me and my sister and my family, because that's part of my life. It's what happened to me. But I'm not going to rush into it. And when I do ever get there, I don't know, you might not know me, you might know me from like my past, but I'm not a gossiper. I'm not going to like go into like details and like, you know, complain about all this kind of stuff, because that's just, it's personal and it's not my way. But I will, of course, just say what happened, like the gist of everything. So if that's what you're waiting for, please continue to wait and watch. I will get to the end of my story. And if not, if you're just here for me and to hear my interesting and crazy life, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys. See you next week.